everyone. Welcome back to another segment. We are live here in Washington, D.C. at the 2023 AWS DC Summit, primarily focused to the public sector environment, but we are seeing customers from all over different places. And this segment is a little bit about the well-architected review, but we'll get to that in a second. Really quickly, my name is Jeff Marushak, your host. I am a senior solutions architect on our DoD Air Force team, and I am joined here by Tom and Leo. So one of you go first, introduce yourself, and the next one follow.
Yeah, so hey, I was just here earlier, but I'm Leo Jadnowski. I'm the Chief Technologist for Education. And so one of the things that I do with my customers is when they have really big, strategic, important launches, we help them reduce the risk of anything going wrong with those launches.
Sure.
And that's where what we're going to talk to you about today, which is the Operational Readiness Review, comes in.
Awesome, yeah, so we teased it a little bit earlier today. We talked a little bit about Landing Zone Accelerator earlier, but this is pretty cool. Tom, welcome to the show, and introduce yourself.
Thank you, I'm really excited to be here at the conference. My name is Tom Romano. I'm with the Worldwide Public Sector Service Creation Team, and I'm a solutions architect. So the Worldwide Public Service Creation Team helps customers who serve the government and educational facilities both create and launch new workloads with AWS.
And so I imagine with creating those new workloads, we want to make sure the customer doesn't fail.
Yes.
And so, okay, so that being said, let's talk about the well-architected framework, or a lot of our solutions architects are familiar with the well-architected review. And this is a service that hopefully, if you don't know, if you're an AWS customer, that you should be aware about, but one of the solutions architects' one of our things that we can deliver our customer is a guided, well-architected review. And there are 5 major pillars, or I think we're always adding, but there are major pillars. Sustainability is one, operations, cost management. I'm vamping here, but there's also, beyond the pillars, lenses. And so depending on the workload, depending on your use case, you can choose a particular lens. Like, for example, there's a serverless lens that you would apply. There is a data analytics lens. And what those lenses do, they change the different questions that are asked during the well-architected review. And it's not really an audit per se. You're not going to get in trouble if you answer no to some of these, but the goal of the well-architected review is to raise awareness and make sure that you are asking the questions that AWS has learned with different customers over the years that set up customers for success. So what we're here is a new lens that's based on really making sure the customer, the new workload doesn't fail. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so first of all, this lens uses the custom lens feature of well-architected, which we'll show you how to use it. But it's really cool because our customers, they can even take their own questions. So they can take our lens or start fresh and create their own well-architected review, right? But this specific lens it's the Operational Readiness Review. And the origin of it is when our service teams build services, we have mechanisms that they go through to reduce the risk of like something going wrong when they launch, right? Some operational issue or resilience issue. And you know, we've been doing this for a long time, like over 20 years, if you count like Amazon as a whole. And we've learned a lot of lessons. And we actually have a process called COE, which is correction of error, that we do whenever there's a issue. We basically learn what happened and then how do we fix it, right? And when we see patterns occurring, one of the how do we fix it items might be add this specific check to our operational readiness review. And so when our service teams, one of the things they have to do before they launch is they have to go through an operational readiness review. And one of the things that I do in my job is, like I said, I help my customers when they have to launch something really critical. Like for example, last year, USPS was up here on stage at the keynote, and they're talking about the COVID test website they had where you could order a COVID test. For something like that, my team will come in and help them basically lower the risk, right? Help them with their architecture, help them with eliminating operational issues, and so we would do the ORR for them. or we would help them do it.
And that's basically the same type of thing our service teams are doing when we launch a new service.
Same exact checklist. They're based on the same one.
We wanted to take those best practices, those learnings, and put them into our customers' hands.
Yeah.
Right.
And so at Service Creation, we would work with our customers and do an ORR just before launch and release so that we could disseminate all the best practices that we've learned in AWS and basically pay it forward.
Share the love.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't want to be the bottleneck. So with this lens, you can deploy it in your account. By the way, it's free. And you can run your own operational readiness review without having to wait for somebody from AWS to help you.
Yeah, so you definitely have options. You can do it yourself. If you are working with a solutions architect that's assigned, the SA will be able to help you with that.
Yes.
There are partners that specify in helping a customer go through a well-architected review. So there's another option there as well. But so the whole gambit, do it yourself to actually have professionals who have done it before help you out.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, like, well, what's the difference between the regular well-architected review and the ORR? So the ORR is based on if you have a mental model of I'm going to launch something soon. What are the top risks I need to identify to reduce the risk of having downtime? That's the operational readiness review. The well-architected review has, like it looks at cost optimization and a bunch of other stuff and security. And so I would say if you have a lot of runway, ideally you're doing the well-architected review, the general one. You do any lenses that make sense, like serverless, if you have a serverless app, and then you do the ORR.
Yeah.
If you just found out you have to launch in 2 days, do the ORR first.
So, for example, like the resiliency pillar, a question it would be, are you utilizing auto scaling? And you would say yes or no. And then cost optimization, how are you tracking? How are you documenting your EC2 instances are right-sized? And so, can you give me some examples of questions that come out of the ORR lens?
Sure. One of my favorite questions, if I'm allowed to have a favorite question, is the load testing question. So have you taken your workload and applied a synthetic load to it to see how it behaves under expected load? So if you're expecting to process 100 widgets per second, test it with 100 widgets per second and see how it behaves. But then the ORR double clicks on that. Did you try it at 2 times your volume, 3 times your volume? Push it to when it breaks.
Because I was going to say, what you just said seems logical, but of course we've been in IT for many, many years, and we've been around this. So I could see where it might look at, a customer might see that question, of course I'm going to load test it, but it's that extra step that you just mentioned that might go that extra yard to help out.
It really double clicks on the operational excellence and resiliency pillars.
Yeah, and to build on that, it's based off of what AWS has learned over the years, bringing our own services to market. So, any other good examples that stand out?
So one that I really love is it asks you, have you done a game day to test your resiliency? So, for example, we have the fault injection service, and you can use that to intentionally break things before you go live, maybe in a staging environment, right?
Yeah.
And then, because the best way to see how to react to like an issue is to actually cause an issue.
Yeah.
Because if you're just guessing, like you never know. Something's going to happen that you didn't think of. But if you actually go ahead and start breaking your environment and then either changing your architecture in response to that, or actually like writing run books for, okay, if this happens, here's what we're going to do, that'll really help you out.
Yeah, and I can see sometimes along the lines of your example, someone might say, well, are you doing chaos engineering? And that might scare people and might be, well, we're not going to go that far. But there are ways to gamify failures without actually going full bore chaos engineering. So, and I could see how that could, this new lens could suggest some of those avenues.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and basically every single item in that ORR lens, it came from a learning that we had. So you can benefit from our learnings without what led to those learnings, which is nice.
Okay, so there's a well-architected tool in the AWS console. And so when you open that up, you can go through, pick your pillars, go through questions. But let's talk about how do we use a custom lens. Can you, looks like you could share your desktop and we could see what we need to do, not only for this new OOR lens, but for any custom lens. But I'm sure you're going to talk about the OOR.
Yeah, let's go over to the demo.
Let's go to the demo.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So and first of all, We've got here on the screen we have a blog post it's about this specific lens, and so if you want to kind of read more about what we talked about today, I would check out the blog post first.
That both of you were involved in, because
Correct.
I see your names on
You're
there.
both co-authors on it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So then, you want to take it away?
Sure. And if you read the blog post, you'll find a link to a GitHub repository. And this GitHub repository is github.com, AWS Labs /operational-readiness-review-custom-ward-lens. So it's a bit of a path, but hopefully you can see it there on your screen and find it in the blog. And that will bring you to a repository, because the custom lens is a JSON file, which is a text file that you can download and import into the Well-Architected tool. So let's start from the beginning. I'm in my AWS console.
And really quick, let me just add, there is no cost to do a well-architected review. There's no cost to use the well-architected tool.
Zero cost.
But there's additionally there's zero cost for using these custom lenses. So
That's correct. So if I'm in my well-architected tool, and I have a workload called My Important Workload, and I would like to do an operational readiness review on this, I can load the custom lens and apply it to this workload. So let me walk through those steps.
okay.
So I would go to the GitHub repository, and if you're a developer, you could clone the repository. We love our developers. If you just want to download it, you can drill into the Wafer Operational Readiness Lens and find all the published versions. Select the most recent, and there's a download button, which will download it to your downloads folder in your computer. So I'll just download that raw file, and it's good to go. It's in my downloads folder. Returning to the Well-Architected tool, I would go to the Custom Lenses folder, create a custom lens, choose the file that I just downloaded, which is the OR 134 published, and load it into the Well-Architected tool. After you select the file, go ahead and submit. Now it's loaded into the tool, but it's not yet published and available. You could preview it, you could take a look at the questions, but very importantly, make sure you choose Actions, Publish Lens to make it available to everyone who's in your account. And you can give it a version. I'm just going to keep the version the same, but feel free to give it any version. So now that I'm published, I'll return to my workload, and I'll open up my important workload. I can see that my important workload currently has 2 lenses. I can edit the lenses, and I now see that the AWS Operational Readiness Review is a new lens that I can select in the tool, and this is the custom lens. So I'll select it and click Save, and it is now part of the review for that workload. And if you'd like to begin the Operational Readiness Review, you can click on it.
We can see right in there was so many questions per lens, and it looks like this one was 51 questions.
51 questions per lens, exactly. So there's 51 additional questions that, again, double-click on that reliability and that operational excellence based on our learnings.
But you see it says high and medium risks there. So what you can do is, after you get your results, you know which specific items to focus on, because obviously you want to remediate your high risks first.
Absolutely. And all customers are different, have different requirements. A red for one customer might be a yellow for another customer. I know that sounds funny, but that's definitely the case. So
yeah.
Yep. And that's the great thing about this custom lens is it downloads that JSON file, but that's human readable. You could open it up in an editor. You could customize the high, medium, low risks.
Yeah.
You could customize the questions for your own operations and use it as the basis for your own operational readiness review.
Wonderful. Okay. So we click in the ORR lens.
And you can continue reviewing. And it will bring up the questions of the Operational Readiness Review lens. And you can see that our very first question for the Operational Readiness Review and our best practices, have you conducted a well-architected framework review and remediated all of the high-risk items? And it asks you that right up front as the first question.
Cool. Let's go through a few of these. So let's just say we have, and let's pretend we're delivering one right now.
Okay. So I have completed. I've gathered all my stakeholders together. I've brought the operations team. I've brought the software engineers.
That's important. It's not just
exactly
the cloud customer that you typically talk to. It's decision makers. It's operations. It's executives sometimes.
Exactly.
A wide group of people that need to be involved in this.
Yeah, probably like security, operations, the actual developers, whoever's involved in like the totality of the product that you're reviewing.
Yeah.
Yep, and so you go through the questions, and there are no outstanding or unresolved high-risk findings. Have we resolved all our high-risk findings? Yes, we did.
Sure.
We're awesome. So are there any outstanding or unresolved medium risk? Well, we might have a few.
Yeah,
so
there's a few medium risks.
Okay, so we'll have to make a note that Leo needs to fix. This is why you don't do this live.
No, I think this is really good to show, because I think if you've worked with AWS, you've heard the term well-architected review, but if you've never been through one, this is exactly what it is. All right, let's take notes, and like I said, no one's getting in trouble if there's a no for these. Right. We just want to document it so we can visit it later. So let's, oh, perfect. Let's, question number 2.
So question number 2 is provide a diagram of your system or application architecture, both at the infrastructure level and at the data network flow level. So this is ensuring that you have the proper architecture diagrams and that you're really aware of your network flow. It's really to make sure that you understand the system that you are deploying and have it fully documented.
Yeah, and a lot of times as the AWS account team, we'll say, hey, can you give us an architecture diagram? We get something. But with those, the other decision makers and the other groups involved in this meeting, there is some accountability built into this process that the architect for the customer is like, oh yeah, here's the real drawing that everyone, we know that they're, and this is not AWS asking for this. This is just saying, we want to make sure you guys have an established architecture drawing, which sometimes is taken for granted.
Yeah.
And so,
and go deeper, have the discussion. Is our diagram good enough? Bring it up.
Yes.
Show it to all your stakeholders. Just ensure that everyone is comfortable with the level of documentation that you have.
Yeah, a lot of times just having all the stakeholders in the room, just discussing this stuff, even though some of it might seem obvious, brings up things that one of them may have not thought about before.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is great. So we walked through 2 questions, and now the operational readiness review. Any AWS customer can go ahead and do this. Thank you for showing how to do this. Anything else? We're getting close to time that you want to share.
So one other thing I wanted to talk about was, if you saw when Tom was deploying this is a JSON file. If you want to use this as a baseline and add your own questions based on your organization's needs, you should do that. This tool is great in general for just having a mechanism for reviewing what it is that you're doing in a programmatic way. And also, the well-architected tool can share the results across accounts. So, let's say you've got multiple accounts with different workloads in them. You can there's an API for it, so you can, for example, like programmatically list all the high-risk findings. All kinds of cool stuff you can do there.
I got a question. We didn't plan this. Could you open up that JSON file really quick just to kind of give us an idea what it looks like?
I sure can. So let me just call that up. And of course, it's very small, but
yeah,
you can see it's organized by the pillars. So that's like the high-level organization.
Yep.
And then the questions.
And then, so that's the first question we had. Have you completed a well-architected review? Yeah.
Here are the answers.
So awesome. Well, Tom and Leo, thank you very much for coming on. We have about 30 seconds left. Anything else? I mean, I would normally ask, how can someone interested start? But you've already shown the GitHub repository. You go there, download the JSON file. That's kind of why I asked to bring up the JSON file. You can get started with this, but anything else before we sign off?
No, I highly encourage just try one.
Yeah.
Bring the OR, bring it into your culture, bring it into your process.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more times you do this, the more of these practices will just be infused into how you launch things, and it'll lead to less risk and more resilient applications on your end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone, that ends it. Thank you, Tom and Leo, for joining us. We, again, are live in Washington, D.C. at the 2023 AWS DC Summit, and we'll be back right after this.